Hello and welcome. This is the Goalless AFL podcast. The season is over. I cannot believe it. We have already reached the end of the regular season. It's crazy. The home and away season has come and it has gone. And myself and Caleb have been wrapping up the entire season. Caleb up here has been watching football for a long time. So have I. And I don't think we've seen a top 8 that, was so uncertain going into the last round as this. We've seen, teams not quite being known if they're going to be in the finals before. We've seen that, but not basically 2 to 7, 2 to 8 being completely undecided going into the very last game of the season. So it's been pretty wild, and we're here to recap it, Caleb. We didn't have any games this weekend, obviously. The teams were on a bye to kind of rest up, but how did you I suppose we did have one game on Wednesday. Did you watch that one against the Gold Coast Essendon that kind of decided the last one?
Yeah, the bloody Bombers, eh?
Yeah, bloody Bombers.
I don't think anyone anticipated them actually putting up much of a fight, but that specific game was severely disappointing from a neutral's perspective because it was one of the most low-quality demonstrations from a football side from the Bombers. And it's tough because haven't got anything to play for. You've got so many injuries and, Brad Scott's in the coach's box booking his holiday. So, no one's really there to put up a decent effort. But in saying that, though, I was coming into this season and I was desperate to see the Gold Coast Suns actually make it to finals.
Yeah.
And last week when they lost to Port Adelaide, I was annoyed because I was like, that was the opportunity to prove yourself as a contender, and they didn't. But in saying that, Travis Boak and Ken Hinkley got their emotional send-off in front of their home crowd. The very next game, the Gold Coast Suns got to celebrate this monumental, historical moment in the AFL history in front of their home crowd. And even though it wasn't a sellout, it's still pretty amazing to be a part of. And just seeing the emotions on the players and some of the fans' faces as well was a true joy to see. So I was happy that the Suns made it. I know you're not, but I was going to say it's going to be a finals campaign that's going to be one to remember, that's for sure.
I might have taken the edge off a little bit. I don't hate the Suns. Like I don't dislike them that much, but I don't know. I think that they'll be bounced in the first round. I just feel like that they're not going to play very well. They're going to play against Freo. They're going to play away from home. Like, it's going to be very hard for them. If they do win, I'll have to eat my words and, I'll give them a bit more respect. But for right now,
I think you are in the right boat, though. I think the Suns are very unlikely to win in the West. But I actually have some fun facts for you to sort of recap some
I love a fun fact.
This season in the AFL. The first one, whilst we're on the topic of the Essendon Bombers, they made history this year by having the most debutants in a season, and that's excluding the expansion teams, being GWS and the Gold Coast Suns when they came into the comp.
Yeah.
But they broke that record of 15 debutants in a season.
That's so crazy, man.
It is. And the amount of injuries they had and having to rely on their young, inexperienced players, it does make you feel a little bit of sympathy for them as a football club. But in my opinion, the question mark needs to be asked of their physical conditioning coaches and the players themselves. Are they eating? Are they sleeping? Are they preparing correct to make sure their bodies
I think they are sleeping
in the best possible condition? And the fact that they had so many injuries and that's just absolutely crazy.
Yeah. It's a very large amount. And I think that if they had injury, like everyone sort of prepares for injuries at the start of the season. It's just a part of the season. But that many, I don't think you can prepare for that much. So,
absolutely not.
Credit to them trying to, piece together a season. But once they lost so many players, I think there was the game and the season were done. But we will move on to some of the finals, as you can see by the ladder where we finished. It finished as we pretty much expected in terms of from the last round. I feel like the teams that I thought were going to make it made it. Bulldogs, I didn't think had much of a shot, even if they won against Freo, they were in. But I didn't think the Bulldogs were going to win. Crows finished top, obviously, minor premiership, first time in a long time actually. Geelong, Brisbane, Collingwood, GWS, who won in the last round, Freo, who won in the last round, so did Gold Coast, and Hawthorn dropped down to 8. So very hotly contested. And this is basically, we'll quickly just wrap to the last 10. We'll talk a little bit more about where we thought they were going to finish. Western Bulldogs, Sydney, Carlton, St Kilda, Port Adelaide, Melbourne, Essendon North, Richmond and West Coast. So that was where the season kind of finished in the regular season. Anything that kind of jumped out to you about the bottom? Like, there are obviously teams that we've talked about all year that have definitely been failing. Like, obviously Essendon, Port, Carlton, Sydney, even some of those teams that we didn't think would be very good. And there's some teams who even jumped up to where, we didn't think that Richmond were going to win 5 games.
That's very true. We both thought that they'd be finishing dead last, but the Eagles got that spot, and
Eagles.
they acquired the most amount of losses in an AFL VFL season, which is the biggest in history. 22 losses.
It's crazy.
Which is absolutely crazy. But despite that horror, West Coast actually recorded the 5th highest average home attendance in the league this season.
That's wild.
So even though they suck as a football team, the fans still turn out. And that, to me, is really commendable. And I understand Western Australia is a massive state and Perth is a huge AFL city, and they have a lot of members. But to have that commitment to keep paying your hard-earned money and showing up and supporting the team is really awesome. So respect to the Eagles fans, despite them having a really poor season.
Yeah, well, there's only been a couple of how many seasons have we had? 23 games. So the possibility to lose 22 games hasn't been there for forever. But yeah,
that's so true.
It's pretty crazy. Like, it's pretty wild. I think the other thing that stood out to me with that list is North. I didn't think they would. I thought they'd be a little bit higher. But yeah, that kind of mid-tier Port, Melbourne, Essendon, North, I thought that those teams would be up a little bit higher, except for Melbourne. I thought they'd be lower. So I guess that's a good segue to have a look at what we thought was going to be the ladder at the start of the season. So Caleb, your top 8 was the Cats, the Blues, the Pies, the Lions, Essendon, Swans, Hawks, and Suns. Do you want to kind of explain what your thinking was, if you can even remember, at that time of the season?
Well, Geelong, I've always had this opinion. I think they're a hugely competitive team, and they've had such great recruitment over the last couple of seasons that has allowed them to always be at the top echelons of the AFL. So no surprises that they've finished in the top 2. Carlton, look, considering how well they performed the previous season under Michael Voss, making it to finals and looking like they could be a contender, obviously losing out to Collingwood in that prelim final a couple years ago. So I thought this was going to be the year that they would step up, especially after Patrick Cripps got a Brownlow medal. You'd always anticipate him or a Brownlow medalist to continue that form. He dropped off a cliff, which was insane. Brisbane, I've always thought, have been, when they play their best footy, are the best team in the comp, but they are never that on the table because they lose so many stupid games that they should win. So I wasn't surprised that they finished where they did. And then I said, Collingwood was 3rd, right? So
you're actually
very close. In the ballpark,
you're really
with
close.
1st, 3rd, and 4th, but Carlton way off.
Yeah, Adelaide obviously way off. Yeah, Carlton way off. Swans not great. Hawks and Suns just flip-flop them. Essendon, terrible. That's one of them. But I knew that was going to be bad. Even if they kept all their players, that was a terrible take. The Essendon one.
Can I just say, though, can I defend myself? I did say in that episode when we predicted this, I said this will be either one of 2 options. It'll be Essendon finishing really well this season in what I thought would be 5th spot, or they're going to have a complete woeful season and finish more closely to where you put them in 13th spot. So I thought it was going to be 50-50 flip of a coin which way they went. I lean towards them being pretty good based off their previous season and how long they stayed in the 8 for. And I was very embarrassingly wrong. So
yeah, there was some close things there. My probably biggest miss maybe might have been Port, but I think most people kind of thought that they'd be up there. Swans, that was a bit of a miss. I was pretty close with Freo. Very close with Freo. GWS, very close there. Pies, very close. Lions, pretty close. So, and Hawks, I was a little bit off, and obviously everyone was off about Adelaide, but, close with the Suns, kind of. I think we were both sort of in the ballpark. I'm just having a look. Were there any teams that we actually were bang on? Trying to have a look.
I don't. Well, so I picked 2nd, 3rd, 4th, which was Geelong, Brisbane, Collingwood, and I've got Geelong, Collingwood, and Brisbane in my top 4. So I get a 75% mark on that.
Yeah.
And then I had the Hawks and the Suns in 7th and 8th, and the Suns finished 7th and the Hawks finished 8th. So I'll give myself a passable mark for that. That's pretty good.
Yeah.
Pretty good prediction.
So, close-ish, but yeah, obviously there's going to be some outliers, and I'm pretty happy with that. There's obviously a couple of ones where, no one thought Adelaide were going to be up the top there. Like I'll give you a fun stat. You've had some stats. That was the highest jump ever in AFL history from where they were last year, 15th, all the way up to first, highest ever jump. Which is pretty incredible. I think the Lions had a pretty good jump just before they kind of went on their finals, 7th straight finals for the Lions. By the way,
second season, I think, right?
Yeah, they jumped up from 13th or something. It was pretty close. Yeah, that was a great season. But yeah, Adelaide finishing first, which means that they will be playing in the first final, which is against Collingwood, a rematch of a game that happened a couple of weeks ago, which was a very hotly contested game in the same venue. And then this is going to be very exciting. Thursday, 7:40. Set your watches. This is going to be a fun one. Who do you think is going to come out on top this one?
Oh, you got to say Adelaide. I think the Adelaide Oval crowd is going to be so dynamite, and the adrenaline will be so pumped up. It'll be insane. It's one of those games that you'd like to be at if you're a Adelaide supporter. It'll be the hottest tick in town. So it's, of course, going to be a sellout, being a Collingwood game as well. Yep. And I think Collingwood will put up a fight, just like they did in the home and away season a couple of weeks ago. But I think Adelaide will be able to get the job done in front of their home crowd and go straight into a prelim.
Yeah, so if people don't understand how the AFL, I mean, why are you watching this if you don't understand how AFL works? But basically, you're going to go, I'm just going to quickly skip to the last slide, which is the road to glory, as it's being called. So obviously you have the qualifying final down there, and they're going to go all the way to the prelim. If they win, if they lose, they go to the semi, and then eliminations in between there, they go straight to the semi if they win. Obviously, if they lose, they're done. And then Geelong, Brisbane, same thing, into prelim final 2. So that means that Collingwood and Adelaide, their path will be either the winner of out of Freo Suns, Geelong, Lions. So they'll be playing them in a prelim. So they'll be playing the winner of that semi-final, and the loser of the qualifying final goes to the semi-final. Simples. So it's going to be, I feel like this is going to be one of the best games. I feel like Collingwood should be in the top 2, but they fell off so hard in the last, how many rounds? I think they lost 5 out of 7. Was it? It was. I think so. It was a wild drop off, and they basically completely lost the plot. And I think that meant that they are playing worse than where they are. But I think that being 4th is probably not where their whole season as a whole probably should have been. So I think that
the only caveat with this game that I think might be interesting is, obviously we've talked about how Collingwood is so old.
Yeah,
they have obviously so much experience in finals. This is Adelaide's first time in the finals in a very, very long time. A lot of these players will not be, will not have had the time to adjust to the excitement and the intensity and the aggression of finals footy. So that could actually maybe go in Collingwood's favour if we're, being fair to our preview. But I think Adelaide will still win the game.
I don't think. Did I say my prediction? Because talking about that, I don't know. Finals are weird. I think that Collingwood's going to win this.
Really?
I feel that Collingwood's going to win this. I feel that Collingwood's going to beat Adelaide, and Adelaide are going to have to play again at home against either, who do we say, GWS or Hawks. So, yeah, I think Collingwood's going to win this, unfortunately. So
if Collingwood do pull it off, it'll be a very historic win for them because, like you said, they've been in a bit of a ditch for the last couple of weeks, and to sort of dig themselves out instead of making the grave bigger. That would be huge for them.
You just can't pick every home team or the top seeded team in finals. It just doesn't happen that way. You were talking about the game that happened before. Finals pressure is something that is real, and I think that just because a game in the regular season sounds or feels like the finals doesn't mean that it's a finals atmosphere. You know what I mean? So,
mate, once that Aussie anthem goes off, it just everything changes.
Yeah. So we got that game on the Thursday, and then the Friday we have the second qualifying final, which will be Geelong at Brisbane. Brisbane at Geelong. So they're playing at the MCG. I'll get your take initially about this game being played at the MCG. Thoughts? instead of
I think
Geelong.
it's a no-brainer. I understand why Geelong fans get upset about it.
They do.
I did the Google Maps and I saw where Geelong is compared to where Melbourne is, and it's comparable to Brisbane to the Gold Coast distance.
Yeah.
So for them, it's an hour drive from the locals up to the MCG. I can understand
Yeah.
why they would complain about it, but from an AFL money-making perspective, it's stupid to play it at GMHBA. You've got to play to the MCG.
Yeah.
You'll get 70,
You
80,000
have to.
guaranteed, way more tickets sold, way more eyeballs, way more excitement in the heart of Melbourne. And I think Brisbane will be able to I don't know. I almost said Brisbane will get the job done, but then there's a little bit of hesitation, so I'm not too sure. What do you think? Who's going to win this one?
I don't know. I feel like, again, this could probably be... I'm going to say a Geelong game. I just feel like it's hard to keep winning away from home, and yes, the Lions have been doing it, but I don't know. I'd be nervous about this game. If I was a non-Brisbane fan, I'd probably pick Brisbane, but if I'm... Yeah, obviously I am, so I'm kind of a bit nervous. I think Geelong...
Oh, I'm so nervous.
And then
We've
we
had
have to...
some huge games against Geelong in finals the last couple of years, and last year was an absolute thriller.
Yeah.
And, oh man, the fact that this is first up,
Yeah.
I'm always scared coming up against Geelong.
Here's another stat. This is the first final that Brisbane have played against Geelong that's not a prelim final.
That's actually true. That's a good point. Yeah.
Every game we've played them has been a prelim final. So,
wow.
It's been
How
exciting.
interesting.
But yeah, so this game will be. I think that Brisbane will be playing at home the next week against the winner of Freo Suns. That's my thought. Can you imagine that? A semi-final to get to the prelim against the Suns. I don't think it'll happen because
crazy.
if we're skipping ahead a little bit further to the Saturday games, that I think that it's going to be. I think it's going to be GWS and Freo winning. I know I just said we can't pick the top seeds every time. I just don't see the Hawks beating GWS. I don't see Gold Coast beating Freo. So what's your take?
Look, I think the GWS Hawthorn game is going to be actually a lot closer than people think.
For sure.
I know I've gone on record and saying GWS aren't as good as I think, but clearly they've proved me wrong, finishing fifth
Yes, they have.
again this season. But I think Hawthorn play pretty decent against Brisbane at the Gabba. And even though Brisbane were far better than them in the key statistics, but Hawthorn, they have enough firepower, I think, to be able to get the job done. And if they can hit their targets coming out of defense and not get counterattacked from the wealth of talent at the Giants' disposal, I think they might be able to stay in the contest for all four quarters. So I would actually say Hawthorn to win that game. But yeah, Fremantle's going to win in the West, 100%.
Now, they're going to clip this out and they're going to put your voice over the top of some sort of montage because they're going to win now because you said that.
Yeah, wow.
Yeah, well, but like you said, the West Coast fans get out. Freo fans, this has been their highest attended season ever. Obviously, they have a 60,000 capacity stadium, but they had a big presence this season, and it's going to be a rocking atmosphere on Saturday night. That one, what's the time on that one? 7:35, so 5:30 in the West. 3:00 is the Giants game, so a packed weekend of football coming up. As you can see, not that one. As you can see, you have the road to the glory there. So, yeah, it's all kind of ahead of us, and all roads lead to the MCG, where, looking at these teams, who out of these ones hasn't played well at the MCG so far, or has barely played at the MCG?
Well, Gold Coast Suns have basically never played them.
They played one. GWS and Gold Coast only played one game at the MCG this season, and they both won.
That is crazy. Look, GWS, again, they suck on the big stage. No one needs to be reminded of that 2019 grand final. Was it 2019? The one against Richmond.
Yeah, I think it was 2019, yeah.
Gold Coast, they're not even worth entering into the conversation. Freo, they had a grand final against Hawthorn in...
Wasn't it?
I thought it was Hawthorn in 2013.
I'm more saying like this season.
Oh, this season, okay.
Yeah, I probably should have done some research about what they've done this season, but I know that obviously the Hawks play their home games at the MCG, so they will have played there a lot. Collingwood, obviously. Geelong played there a lot. Brisbane have played there more this season, and obviously in the finals last season. I think the Lions have actually creeping up on the record. Well, they're not. They can't. I can't remember which team holds the record for the most amount of consecutive games played. If you know what I mean, like so, all the games that have been played, the Lions were in it. Obviously, going back to last season, the start of last season, or start of 2023, sorry, going all the way to the grand final, and then last season going all the way to the grand final, and now, so they basically played 2 full seasons where some of the other teams below them that have maybe bowed out of finals, like or not even made it, like Adelaide, have only played not a huge amount. If you understand what I'm saying, that kind of
I
didn't
do,
really make my
yes.
point, but I'm just saying that like the Lions are playing, they desperately want to win this game so they can have a break to get to the prelim. I don't think they're worried about the whole, like, let's keep the motor going, the consistency. They've had that many injuries. And I think there's some injuries that have happened this season that aren't, like, the result of stress because they've been players that have, like, come back and then gone away. But, like, Link McCarthy, he'd never played that many games in a row out for the season.
Yeah.
So I just thought that was an interesting stat. If we're, statting it up, that's an interesting one, that the Lions have basically played every single game that they would have had available to them for 2 years straight, 3 years straight nearly.
And when you get to this stage of the season, this is where you start rolling the dice on players that are 50-50 in terms of injuries. Yep. So you look at the Lions, you've got Oscar McInerney, Lockie Neal. These are players that have picked up a few knocks over the last couple of weeks and have been precautioned. The dice will 100% be rolled on those guys. I know the Cats obviously have so much talent at their disposal, so they're going to be pulling out their full-strength team. It's certainly going to be an interesting one. But yeah, I think in terms of MCG performances, you can put a line through GWS, Fremantle, and Gold Coast. Those teams are not going to step up if they were to go all the way, 100%.
So you didn't have the Hawks there?
Well, Hawthorn, I know we share a difference of an opinion here, but I actually rate the Hawks as a team. So I think if they were to go deep and make it to the final day, they would actually step up, even though they've got a young team.
Okay. Did you have any more stats for us?
Well, I do. I've got 2 more. One you've actually already sort of mentioned, was with regards to Fremantle, about them breaking their highest home crowd average, which is 47,000 per home game. So that's after the elimination final, which is going to be a sellout. That's going to push that total up to 47,000, which is huge for Fremantle because obviously they've been the little brother to West Coast for many, many years, similar to Gold Coast to being the little brother to Brisbane. So for them to actually start getting a bit of a momentum with their fans and getting them to actually come out and watch the games in person as opposed to on TV is obviously great, especially from the AFL's perspective. The other one was with regards to Hawthorn. They became the first team, which I thought was interesting here. They became the first team in AFL, VFL history to have 0 debutants in a home and away season.
I did hear that. I love it when a stat starts with VFL, AFL history. It means it's an old one.
Yeah. So this goes back to what we were just talking about. Why I think Hawthorn are better than most people think is because they've actually got a really settled team.
Even though they're young.
Sam Mitchell knows who his best attackers, midfielders, and defenders are. You've got Gunston, who's in career best form. You've got Mario Chol, who week after week is sometimes inconsistent, but when he's on, he is on.
Yeah.
And then their midfield, I just think, can be really dynamite. So, again, Hawthorn finishing 8th, like on paper, it's like, well, there's 0 chance to win a flag. It's never been done in the history of the game before. But, if they actually put together 4 quarter performances, I think it's possible. So there was that stat that I thought was interesting. And the last one that I had, which was a little bit sad for me personally because of how much I loved the Bulldogs watching them this season. They scored the most amount of points in the home and away season, and they missed finals. Yeah. So it doesn't matter how powerful you are on the scoreboard. If you can't get the W at the end of the day, doesn't matter. You're not going to be good enough for finals. And they weren't. So it's going to be a very exciting finals campaign, that's for sure. But yeah, is there anything else that we wanted to talk about?
I think one of the biggest, well, you're just talking about the Bulldogs. You know who they remind me of is the Dolphins in the NRL. Okay. You think about a really high-scoring team that can't defend. Currently, the Dolphins are sitting in 9th, obviously, but this isn't an NRL show. But, kind of like for like, where the Bulldogs are sitting outside the 8 because they can't defend, but they score a lot. Same with the Dolphins. They have one of the highest 4 points scored of the entire season, and they have only an 87-point differential. So they give up a lot of points, but score a lot. Same with the, I know that the percentage is calculated differently in AFL, but, that's the sort of equivalent where just because you have a high-flying offense doesn't mean Panthers have won 4 straight premierships while having a great defense. So, got to defend. And I think that's,
but that's
one
what
thing.
Makes them exciting as a neutral. That is. They're always tight games and always in amongst it. So.
Yeah. And I think that, obviously teams tighten up. Finals footy is a real thing. The Lions have experience. Some of these teams, Geelong have experience. Collingwood have experience in the finals. Isn't it? I think, Geelong, Collingwood, Brisbane is the order of the most amount of finals experience. Obviously, the Lions have a lot of finals experience with even their young players. Darcy Wilmot, guys under 50 games, have 4 or 5 finals games under their belt, which is pretty wild. That's crazy. That I think Darcy Wilmot has 10% of his games have been in the finals, which is
wow.
It's just crazy when you think about guys who never made it to the finals or never even sniffed the finals, like great players. And he just comes in and is suddenly a finals veteran. But yeah, it's been a crazy season. Another stat I'll give you is that this is the only time, besides Tasmania, that every single state is represented in the finals.
I love that
and
stat.
The first time, obviously, that Queensland has 2 teams in the finals. So 2 for Queensland, 1 for Sydney, 1 for New South Wales, obviously. How many from Victoria? 3 from Victoria. And then 1 from South Australia, 1 from Western Australia. So there you go.
That's so good.
Yeah.
I always want that for week 1 of finals because you want the whole country to unify around the sport and just be super buzzed about, and have the optimism of what your team can accomplish. And then obviously we can cut some from the knees and get rid of them. And then we focus on the real.
Well, that's
real
what the AFL
contenders.
really wants, obviously, is to be an AFL Australian-wide game, despite the Melbourne Vic bias narrative that the media always kind of has. I mean, it's been a long time since, the big teams like Essendon, Carlton, Collingwood have all been good. Hawthorn have all been good at the exact same time. There's always a team that kind of drops off, and even like Collingwood missed the 8 last year when Carlton were a little bit higher up, So, there's been toing and froing, and it's been a long time since all the Victorian teams were the best teams in the league, which I think is, obviously really, really good. So there you go. That's the finals preview. We will be back next week to wrap up the 4 games. Man, we're going to get down to those dark days where it's only 1 game per week, or 2 games per week, sorry. And everything seems to be ramped up with the pressure. And the Lions game, going to be a bucket of nerves for that one, because it not only affects, where you play that week, but then the next week or the week after, and then it potentially changes your life plans and stuff. Obviously, if you want to be watching football, you need to be there or need to, be available to watch it. And I know you're busy with work and stuff, so.
Mate, as long as all the games are close, we don't want to see any blowouts.
Unless it's the Geelong-Brisbane game.
To it. Well, we did smash them last time, so that's a good point.
That makes me nervous that we won't smash them this time. Law of averages. Anyway, thank you so much, Caleb, for joining me. And we'll be back next week to preview the second round of the AFL Finals. Thank you.